Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and all week long we are focusing on our Champions in Industry nominees. And again, Champions in Industry Awards Luncheon will be taking place on December 3rd. That is next Monday morning at from 11 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. at the Cable Center. We're very excited for that event. If you have not signed up for that, please do so at cobrt.com/events. Click on December 3rd and you can sign up for that event right there. So I have on the phone with me Jessica Fialkovich. She is with Transworld Business Advisors and the nominator for Wells Fargo SBA Lending in our financial services category. So Jessica, this is a new take that I'm doing here. Typically we have our nominees in studio with us to talk about the nomination, but I'm excited that I have a nominator with us. So if you will talk a little bit about Transworld's relationship with Wells Fargo SBA Lending, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alex, and it's great to be on the show, and it's great to talk about the awesome team with Wells Fargo SBA Lending. So we've been working with them for quite a few years now, and basically what they help us do is they help us pre-qualify businesses for acquisition. So if someone's looking to sell their company, Wells Fargo SBA Lending can pre-qualify that business for a loan for the buyer, and eventually they close lots and lots of deals for us every year. They've been a fantastic partner for us, and we continue to rely on them for a large part of our business.
Which is awesome. I actually have here in front of me that the SBA lending team, and specifically Kevin Doyle, and he has a 7-person team there, which is relatively small for the Colorado market, but they are doing a great job, obviously. 26% of Transworld's deals in 2018 alone, his team has contributed to that.
Yeah, they're a big part of our business, like I said, but, Kevin's been a go-to resource, not just for us to close deals, but also for our clients and our buyers of businesses. Him and his team are a wealth of knowledge. And really why we like working with them is because they do what they say they're going to do. And I think, that's important in any industry, but especially in banking. If there's a deal that isn't going to be a bankable deal, like Kevin's very upfront about it. And he's upfront about it with us and also his client, who's ultimately the buyer.
Right, exactly. And I think it's key to maintain that open communication, right?
Yeah. And that's why our relationship has grown to the point it is of, 26% of our deals are financed through Wells Fargo, is because we've had that open communication and just a really great relationship with Kevin and his whole team.
Which is awesome. And a few more stats here about that. Kevin and his team have lent over $435 million in SBA 7A and 504 loans to more than 575 small businesses, and that is just in Colorado. And that is beautiful. I think that obviously his team does very well, and it's obviously you guys have noticed that or you wouldn't have nominated for this award. But he's also got some really cool details here, particularly that he pays attention to deadlines and makes sure that contracts are in order. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so, I think in any transaction, whether you're buying a business or buying a house, deadlines are really important because there's a lot of parties involved. And, then you throw in the extra layer of, the SBA is a government program, right? So there's a lot of I's and T's to dot and cross when you're doing a transaction that's financed by a bank and guaranteed by the federal government, right? So, Kevin and his team have a great process. And because of that process and how his team works together, they hit those deadlines, they dot those I's, they cross those T's. It's very rare that we run into like a technical issue, because their process is proven and they work so well as a team over at his office.
Wonderful. Are there any personal stories of some businesses that you can share? Obviously, we don't need to share names, but yeah,
right, yeah.
Yeah. If you have any particular stories that stand out for you and how well Kevin's team has done for that business, that'd be great.
Yeah, so, every deal is a little bit different. So we just closed a transaction a couple months ago, and it was a printing company, and Kevin's team did the deal. And, I think as small business owners, we have a lot of stuff on our plate, and sometimes bookkeeping and things like that isn't what's at the top of our priority list. So in this particular deal, there's just some errors in the bookkeeping and errors in the financials. And usually in the banking world, that's a big red flag. But because Kevin and his team understand how small business works, they were able to work with the owner of that business and figure out those bookkeeping and accounting errors and really make adjustments on the timeline to closing by extending it a little bit to give us some time to fix those issues. And the deal still closed and the loan still funded. And I think that's a testament to also how much Kevin cares about small business owners, because most bankers, would probably throw their hands up at that and say, oh, well, the books and records aren't perfect. Like, we're just going to move on. Our underwriting team's not going to work through this issue. Where Kevin's team was like, no, let's figure out a way to a solution. This isn't a major obstacle. We just need to do a little bit additional digging here.
Which is amazing, and I love that it's clear that he has passion for small business, which is a lot of Colorado's contribution to the economy here. Also, speaking to that, it seems here that his team has done a great service to you guys to keeping you up on SBA regulation and fee changes, right?
Yeah, a huge resource to us. So this year specifically, in January, the SBA made a number of key changes to their loan guarantee programs. And, we were one of Kevin's first phone calls, and the new changes got released like January 1st, and he was in the office by the 8th explaining them and teaching them to our team, and then also helping us craft messages to all of our clients and buyers to explain the changes that we were able to get out to them via email no later than like the 15th of January, which was just really crucial because, the changes were favorable. If you do a little research, the SBA program has really helped fund a lot of businesses, and the changes they made this year took the down payment requirements down and a lot of favorable changes. So getting the word out right away was really key to our clients to help them understand, and Kevin helped us do all of that.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm glad that those changes were favorable, because that could have gone the wrong way for sure.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I see here is that Kevin's team has also contributed as a sponsor annually to your charity event, the Charity Ascent. So tell me, first of all, a little bit about that charity event and exactly why they can choose to continue to contribute to that charity event.
Yeah, so we started the Charity Ascent about 4 years ago, and what it is, it's a group hike to support a local nonprofit that supports entrepreneurs and small business owners in the Denver market. So for the last couple of years, we've been supporting Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute, or RMMFI, that provides small microloans to startup entrepreneurs and small business owners in the Denver community. And about 3 years ago, Wells came to us and Kevin came to us and said they wanted to partner with us on the event. So for the past 3 years, they've been a joint sponsor with us and hosted the after party for that hike. And I think over the last 3 years, we've contributed somewhere in the range of $10,000 to local nonprofits from that event.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. What
Thank you.
Do you have so it's always a hike? Yes, do you pick different peaks, or is it the same one every year?
Yeah, so we pick a different one every year. We actually did Mount Sherman 2 years in a row. This past year, we decided we called it not a 14er to make it more accessible to people. So we did Chief Mountain in Idaho Springs, and we hosted our after party with a small business up there of the Eastbound and Down, that new brewery that just opened. So we had a really good event. Next year, I'm not sure what the peak is we're going to pick, but it's typically the first or second week of August every year.
Oh, that's lovely. And can anyone get involved with that?
Yeah, we have it open to the public, so you can hike as an individual. You can also hike as a team. So we have a lot of small business owners that actually bring their team out and hike. The Wells team hikes as a team every year together. And that's the way we raise money is through those hiking fees. And then Also, small business owners can donate above and beyond the hiking fee to contribute to the nonprofit, and 100% of those fees go directly to RMMFI. So on top of throwing the event and everything, TransWorld and Wells Fargo covers all of the expenses for the event, so the nonprofit can get the most money out of that event to serve their client base.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Well, I will keep an eye out for that charity event for 2019 in August. So we've touched on it a few times throughout our conversation here, but if you don't mind going into a little more detail about how important this SBA lending is to a small business, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so the SBA has two main programs for businesses. They have the 7A program, which can be used to start or grow a business. So in our case, we do a lot of acquisitions with that 7A program. And then there's a 504 program to help purchase commercial buildings, equipment, and things like that. And what the SBA program does is it provides a guarantee to the banks. So the banks are still lending the money. So Wells Fargo is still, taking a risk on that entrepreneur and lending the money. But what this SBA is doing is they're guaranteeing that the bank will not lose a certain amount of that loan if for some reason that entrepreneur defaults on the loan. So, say 75% guarantee. So the banks are able to take bigger risks from small businesses and maybe lend certain entrepreneurs or certain businesses money that they typically wouldn't lend. And really, it's crucial to small business and the economy. It gets a lot more money into entrepreneurs' hands to build, buy, and grow their businesses that really wouldn't be available without that SBA program. And really, in the last few years, the changes that they've made by lowering the down payment requirements and making it a little bit easier for the banks to offer these loans have provided a lot more capital to entrepreneurs and essentially been able to have a lot more SBA loans out on the streets, having the money work for the business owners by helping them not only grow their businesses, but provide jobs and economic impact to the communities that they serve.
Awesome. So just a few questions off the top of my head here. I'm most knowledgeable, I would say, on home loans, which are not at all the same to small business loans, I'm sure.
Right.
That being said, so they've lowered the amount that's needed for a down payment. And so that makes me think of back in 2008 with the housing market and things like that. I assume there's some different qualifications needed to make sure that that small business is going to be able to repay that loan. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's really what the banker's specialty is, and what their job is to calculate, a ratio of how much cash flow is coming from the business and what that business can afford to pay in terms of debt payments. So every banker will look at it differently, but they'll look at that ratio and say, okay, the business is making $10,000 a month. The loan payments are going to be $2,500, and according to that ratio, we feel like that's comfortable and within a range that if the business were to take a hit, the loan would still be repaid. And I'd say probably, unlike home loans, the qualifications and how a banker looks at these transactions, it's a little bit more microscopic than you would as a home loan, because businesses are moving, living, breathing things. They're not like houses. You can't just turn around and sell them to any buyer when it's not the house you want to live in anymore. So there's a lot more details that the bankers look at and that the SBA looks at too to offer these loans.
Wonderful. So when you're going into talking with a small business owner and you're going on about this process with them, walk me through that and what that looks like for your clients.
Yeah, so if we're talking to a small business owner and say they're looking to sell their company, first we talk to them a lot about the process of selling and what it looks like to sell. And that process can take anywhere between 6 and 12 months, and we'll walk them through those timelines. We'll also talk to them about what types of buyers we're going to be looking for. So who's going to be a potential acquirer of this business? And while we're talking about that, we talk about financing programs and the SBA program and what would be required on their part to get their business pre-qualified from a lender. So, Wells does a lot of pre-qualifications for us but we talked to the seller about, this is what we're going to have to get Wells or another bank to have them pre-qualify a loan on your business. And if we're able to do that, then we're able to attract a lot more buyers. So we always say, if you're looking for somebody who has $1 million in cash, you're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. You might have one of those types of buyers looking to acquire this specific business. But if we can use an SBA loan and put 20% down, we might have a few hundred buyers that have $200,000 in cash and are willing to finance the rest. So we educate our sellers about that process and about why it's so crucial to have their business pre-qualified for a loan.
Okay, so you're saying it's not like the movies when somebody has $1 million in their pocket and they're looking to buy the small businesses.
No, yeah, unfortunately not. And even if you're blessed enough to have $1 million from a risk perspective, right, you're probably not going to put all of that $1 million into one specific investment or asset. So even the guy that has $1 million in cash in his back pocket is probably not willing to spend it all on one thing.
Which is a smart deal, I think.
Yeah, very smart. I think that's probably like investing 101, right?
I would imagine. I would hope so. So let's talk about this towing company acquisition and your work with Kyle's team, or Kevin's team, excuse me. So sorry about that. Kevin's team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the recent acquisition we just did was Kevin's team?
Yes, with the towing company.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the process of how we work with Kevin's team is typically ahead of time before we even have a buyer. We'll show Kevin's team the financials of the business, and they'll offer a pre-qualification for the business. So what that means is they'll look at the financials and they'll say, this is the amount of money we can loan to acquire the business. This is what the payments will look like. This is what the interest rate will look like. All obviously contingent on the buyer, because there's a piece that the buyer is going to play too, right? We have to look at their financial history, their qualifications, their credit score. So Kevin's team will look at that buyer, but at least this pre-qualification gives buyers an idea of what the payments would look like to acquire a business like that. So when we go like with the towing company and we found a buyer, and the buyer was introduced to Kevin, and at that point, Kevin's team can give that buyer a final determination of what the loan's going to look like. And once we have that, like with this towing company, we can put together a full offer for the seller, and then kind of execute that offer and move forward both in tandem. So Kevin's team works with the buyer to get the loan closed, and then we're working with the buyer and seller at the same time to come to a contract, a final contract for purchase, and get all the kind of pre-closing and transition items ready to go for the new owner of the company. So we're working in tandem with Kevin's team the whole time, and on a deal like this towing company really turned out very well and got the deal closed on time on both of our sides with a very happy seller and a very happy buyer as well.
That's wonderful. We have about 6 minutes left here in this segment. If you wouldn't mind walking me through how long this process takes from the minute that you meet with Kevin's team until you've closed the deal. Typically, how long is that, and a few of the details along the way that I might not think about.
Yeah. So Kevin will probably hate that I give a quote of timelines, because it's always, like we always say in our business, it always depends, right? So there's a lot of information that has to flow back and forth between a seller and a buyer and the broker and the banker. But in a perfect world, once we have an offer on the business and a buyer is engaged with Kevin's team, it'll take about 60 days to close that deal. And that includes getting the loan funded, getting all the final legal documents drawn up. A lot of that's happening. And sometimes it happens faster, right? If we have buyers and sellers that are really quick to get us information, like sometimes we can get that done sooner. And then sometimes if it's a little more challenging to get certain contracts or reports, it might take a little bit longer. But, I'd say in working with Kevin's team, 60 days or less is about average with them.
Wow. That's definitely a lot shorter period of time than I thought it would be.
Yeah. And like I would say, again, one of the reasons we really like working with Kevin and Wells Fargo is because they have such a great process that they really can stick to their timelines. And, that 60-day timeline. They beat that a lot of the time, but I know Kevin would kill me if I quoted the real timeline. So, but that's what we like working with them, because they really have a solid process, and they're very cognizant that in these business acquisitions, there's a lot of people that are affected by it, right? There's the guy who's selling the business, the person who's buying the business, all the employees of the business, the customers. So every day that we're delaying on our side of getting a deal done, or Kevin's team's delaying of getting a deal done, he's very cognizant that that's affecting a lot of different people, and that's something that he wants to avoid at all costs.
Wonderful. And I'm glad that you have such a great relationship with Kevin and his team at Wells Fargo SBA Lending. In these last 3 minutes here or so, what are your plans for 2019? Are you hoping to get more than 26% of your deals done with them? What's that relationship looking like for 2019?
Yeah, so for 2019, we plan on, continuing the great relationship that we have with Wells. Obviously, Kevin and his team contribute a lot to our business, and they're also big supporters of ours in the community, like we already talked about with the charity Ascent. So we can plan to continue to develop and grow that relationship and do more deals together. So that's kind of the plan. The outlook for 2019 for lending and business acquisitions looks very good and to be a very strong market going into at least the first 2 or 3 quarters of 2019. So we're very optimistic about next year.
Wonderful. Well, let's hear a little bit more about Transworld Business Advisors while I have you on the phone. What do you guys have for your business plan for 2019 outside of your relationship with SBA?
Yeah, so Transworld Business Advisors, we help entrepreneurs buy and sell companies in Colorado. Last year, we actually started an expansion. So we've been in the Denver market for the last 6 years, and last year we expanded to Fort Collins and Boulder, and in 2019 we're expanding some more operations down south to Colorado Springs, while also continuing to grow our team in Denver. So we plan to serve more small businesses, educate more small business owners about the process of buying or selling a business. That's what we really love to do, and really just continuing to support the small business community in Colorado.
Wonderful. I really appreciate that. Jessica, I have to ask you, what was your motivation for wanting to nominate Wells Fargo and Kevin's team for this award?
Yeah, so, like I said, we've obviously have a great relationship with them, but one of our core values as a company is to be a small business advocate. And working with as many small business owners as we do, we work with a lot of different partners, and there's a lot of people that support small businesses in a very positive manner. But Wells Fargo really goes above and beyond, and I think it's really crucial to their success. And I don't think they get as much recognition. I think a lot of us think of Wells Fargo as this big bank, right? And what we don't realize is there's specific smaller teams that do things like this SBA lending program that really, they have the resources of a big bank, but they're really a small business in and of themselves running this arm of their division. So, Wells has done such a great job, and Kevin and his team have been such proponents of small business in Colorado. I don't think there's anybody more well-suited for the award.
That is wonderful, and I'm so glad to hear that. So again, Jessica, this is taking place on Monday, December 3rd at the Cable Center, and we hope to see you there, and we hope, we wish the best of luck to Wells Fargo SBA Lending, Kevin and his team. Hopefully they come out on top in our financial services category. So we look forward to seeing you there, as well as our audience members there. Again, sign up for that at cobrt.com/events. Check out our radio page while you're there at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. And Jessica, again, thank you so much for nominating Wells Fargo SBA Lending. We will keep our fingers crossed for them.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. It was great talking to you.
Yes. Have a wonderful day.